This is episode number 197. Today we're featuring artist Gene Costanza.
This is the PleinAir Podcast with Eric Rhoads, publisher and founder of PleinAir Magazine. In the PleinAir Podcast, we cover the world of outdoor painting. Called PleinAir, the French coined the term, which means open air or outdoors. The French pronounce it plein air. Others say plain air. No matter how you say it, there is a huge movement of artists around the world who are going outdoors to paint. And this show is about that movement. Now, here's your host, author, publisher, and painter, Eric Rhoads.
Thank you, Jim Kipping, and welcome to the PleinAir Podcast. This seems like it's the year that's flying by. It's hard to believe it's the end of November already. If you're listening to this as it's being released on time today, the deadline is today for the PleinAir Salon this month. The November PleinAir Salon. Just make sure you get your best paintings entered at pleinairsalon.com before midnight on the 30th. If not, get them done for December. And today is the last day to save $200 on our January event, a worldwide watercolor event called Watercolor Live. It's a virtual online conference with the best watercolor artists in the world teaching. We got them from all over the world teaching, and we have people signed up from 20, 30 countries already. Sign up for it at Watercolor Live and save $200 if you get it before the end of November. Also, a reminder, we're all going to be gathering and celebrating PleinAir together. It's going to be a sellout for sure. We are already at 1,000 people before we had to cancel the PleinAir convention. So I would imagine we're going to hit that number pretty quickly as we get closer, as long as we're all allowed out and everybody feels safe. And if not, of course, we've got a refund policy that you can get your money back. But we think it's going to happen. You want to sign up, though, before Valentine's Day because the price is going up on Valentine's Day. It would make a great Christmas gift. Just go to pleinairconvention.com. Speaking of PleinAir, the new magazine, PleinAir Magazine, comes out this week. And look for it on the newsstands. Barnes & Noble, it's number one there. Look for it at Michael's. Or you can subscribe at pleinairmagazine.com. Also, there's a preview of it this week in PleinAir Today's newsletter. All right. Coming up after the interview, I'm going to be answering your art marketing questions in the Marketing Minute. But first, let's get right to our interview with Gene Costanza. Gene Costanza, welcome to the PleinAir Podcast.
Hey, hi, Eric. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, man, I'm happy to have you. This is going to be great.
Good.
I'm always...
Good. I'm happy to be here.
I oftentimes try to think about when did I first meet somebody. I was trying to think about when you and I first met. I know we both went to a private event that Scott Christensen held years ago where everybody went hunting. I'm not a hunter, so I kind of just went painting. But was that the first time we met? I know we connected on a deeper level there if we hadn't met there for the first time.
No, actually, I do recall when we met. We met in Santa Fe. You went out to judge an art show, PleinAir, New Mexico.
I did.
I was in a little gallery there, and your magazine was really pretty new, pretty early in it, and we drove up to David LaFell's studio and Sherry McGraw's studio. You and I went up, and we met them. You met David. We went out to lunch, toured their studio, and I remember I got to meet Sherry McGraw, and I introduced myself, and she said, I know all about Gene Costanza from Scott Christensen. I'm going to have lunch with you anyway. I laughed and I laughed. And so that was, and I've had a chance to hang out with her a couple times since then. It was delightful.
Oh, they are. They're delightful.
Royalty.
They care so much about everybody and doing the right thing for people. I remembered that, but I didn't remember it in that order. And in other words, I wasn't sure when we had that dinner or we had that lunch.
Yeah.
I remember.
It was quite a while ago. I'm not sure if your kids have been born yet or not. I don't remember that, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Well, time flies when you're having fun, right?
It sure does. I think your youngins are like graduating from high school, aren't they?
They're actually in college now. Yeah, first year of college.
Okay.
So,
yeah, good.
how did this whole painting thing begin for you, Gene? Because you had another career before all of this.
I did. I had kind of a mid-career. I always wanted to be an artist. I used to get in trouble a lot at school because instead of listening, I'd be drawing, like a lot of artists I know.
We have that in common.
Yeah, be drawing in class. And I remember one time the teacher picked up my paper to see what was going on and explain to the class what her math thing was. And on it were a bunch of Civil War soldiers battling it out on the top of the border. And so I got in trouble again. But I always wanted to be an artist. I studied a little bit in junior college in the early 70s. And then I just hung it up. I went to talk to a professor at the university, and he said, if you really want to be an artist, you got to go to New York City. Well, I didn't know a lot about New York City, but I was 18, and I thought, it doesn't sound like a good plan for me at this point in my life. And I literally walked away from art. I thought it'd be really dramatic. I threw all my drawings in a fire and burn them up.
Oh, no.
Put all my art supplies in a closet of a rental that we were moving out. I just walked away and went to find something else to do, and ended up at a karate store, a taekwondo studio. We call it the karate store. And I met a bunch of cops. And one day my teacher came in and said, hey, you want to beat up some cops? And I said, hey, who doesn't? And he goes, well, come on. I want you to meet these guys, but you play nice. And so we went in, and I met three guys, and we sparred for about 3 hours. And they were the greatest guys. They were so much fun. And they're all still friends to this day. So I got enamored with the idea of doing police work. And it was pretty hard, but I got hired and spent the next 26 years in police work.
Wow.
And during that time, I always wanted to be an artist, to paint. I've always been enamored with, it's like Rembrandt's self-portrait that hangs in the National Gallery. Always one of my favorite paintings. You look into the eyes of that painting and you see in this guy who's been dead for hundreds of years. I always was fascinated with that. And I wanted to paint, but I didn't know where to go to get instruction. I didn't know if I had the wherewithal to stick to it and really study as hard as we now know it takes to be any good. So I thought about it for years. How would I paint that? How would I paint that? How would I paint that? But I didn't do any artwork for 23, 24 years, I think. Maybe 20. Sometimes it's hard to remember back that far.
Yeah, I get it.
And then, so I got promoted to sergeant, and they sent me to a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. And on the lunch hour, I walking around the mall, and I walked into what I think was Trailside Gallery. I didn't know people actually painted representationally anymore. And I walked in, and there was this massive Grand Canyon painting, and it floored me. And I was going, I wonder if I've grown up enough now to stick to it and work hard enough.
Who did it? Was it Kurt Walters, or who was it?
It might have been. I don't know. I was so new. I didn't even know people still painted stuff.
Right.
But it was big, and it was in Trailside. So it might have been Kurt Walters. I thought about that, and I just don't know. I didn't know anybody. But that started, that it was like lighting the fuse. And
I thought you were going to say you wandered into the Scottsdale Artist School and saw somebody giving classes.
I wish. I didn't even know it was there. It was just, I was just walking around, at lunchtime. And all of a sudden, boom, there it is, a big Grand Canyon painting. And that kind of lit the fuse.
That happens. I hear that story a lot in different forms. It's oftentimes a single painting is the stimuli behind somebody deciding this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I can well imagine. And nowadays with this was pre-internet. And so, but nowadays with the proliferation of information, I can well imagine that people would really want to be an artist. And it's a great time to be an artist. There's so much information and inspiration and access to, and you see images and you go, wow, I want to try that. And that's sort of what happened to me. And then shortly thereafter, my mom came to visit at Christmas, and she shows up from a garage sale, and she's got boxes of old paints and brushes and an easel. And she goes, well, I just found these. I just thought I'd leave them here. I'm going, huh? So she was always a great supporter of mine. Always thought I was wonderful in my drawing, even if I did get in trouble.
Perfect timing. All that material showed up. So did you just start self-teaching, or what happened then?
Well, I was trying to find out. I started looking at, there were a couple of magazines out, artist magazines out, way back in the olden days. I think they're still around. And I started going to bookstores and looking at art books.
Yeah.
PBS had, Helen Van Wyck was on PBS.
Oh, yeah.
I started watching her, and I went to the bookstore and I saw a book by this guy named David LaFell, and I looked at it and I said, I can't believe people still paint like this. I didn't have any idea that people still painted representation. So I started buying art books and looking, and I called there were some local artists in Eugene, Northwest Rendezvous guys. Tom Browning was there, Don Prechtel, and guys and I'd seen their work around a little bit in a couple of galleries downtown. I called Don Prechtel. He's now a good friend. I called him and I said, will you teach me how to paint? He said, no. I said, okay, how do I learn to paint? He goes, well, you learn to paint by painting. I said, okay, I'll try that. Can I come see you in your studio? He said, yep, come on down. So I went down, and he does a lot of historical art,
right?
Military history, and I love that stuff. I've always loved military history.
Yeah, art. Drawing Civil War soldiers on your math paper.
Exactly. But I also knew that I would never do the research that it would take to be accurate. And so I started looking around for what I wanted to paint. And I loved the figure. I want to do more of it. I started the last couple of years, I started doing a lot more life drawing and stuff. But I stumbled on, in a magazine, this outdoor painting thing. And I thought, wow, what a great thing to do, because I love being outdoors. I played a lot of golf back then, just to get out of the house, get away from work. And I thought, wow, that'd be really cool to go places and paint outdoors. And in those days, I don't sound like I'm some kind of pioneer or anything. I didn't know anybody else that did it.
Are you talking about PleinAir magazine?
I think this was a predecessor. I think it was Artist Magazine that I saw articles about Christensen and
people going outdoors. Yeah, because PleinAir's only been around since 2004. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No, these were they were previous magazines, but they were articles about going outdoors.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I thought, wow, how cool would that be? I had no idea how to do it or what it would take. I thought it'd be kind of complicated. I liked the idea. And back then, when you'd have to explain to somebody what PleinAir means, and
you still have to a lot of people.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just stumbled on that. It's kind of going through, what did I want to paint? I like still life, but it wasn't really floating my boat. And the idea of going places, getting out of town, and painting outdoors really sparked my imagination, especially since I was in police work, and police work is nothing but conflict. It's 24/7, 365. Your whole career is nothing but conflict. And painting was a beautiful respite, a real mental break from the conflict, except that you want it so bad, or I wanted it so bad, that I brought a lot of pressure to it. I kind of likened. Well, I'll get back to that because
right.
I started trying to paint outdoors, and then had the great fortunate circumstance of bumping into Scott Christensen and starting a conversation at an airport in Salt Lake City.
Oh, you mean that was totally random?
Totally random.
Tell me that story.
Okay. I had gone to play golf with a buddy of mine who was a doctor in Utah over in Salt Lake City, and the Northwest Rendezvous group was up having a show up in Park City. I thought, well, I can go up there and see some artwork because I knew I had met Tom Browning and Don Preschel, and they were in the show. So played golf and went to the show. And then on the way back, I'm in the airport, and I knew that this guy named Scott Christensen was coming to Eugene to do a workshop, but it was already full. So I thought, I'll catch him next time. Because I'd seen his work in the magazines, and I thought, it'd be kind of cool to go outdoors and paint again. So I was going home, go to the airport, and I walked down to where the smaller planes are loading up, and there's this guy sitting there, and he's got a French easel. I thought, and I don't strike up a lot of conversations with strangers, but I asked him a question about it, and we started talking, and I said, oh, I know who you are. I didn't know it was him, but I knew about him. I said, I know who you are. You're Scott Christensen. And we started sitting there just talking. He goes, oh, where are you coming back from? We talked about the Northwest Rendezvous, and all of a sudden, our plane's about ready to leave, and we're running down the tarmac to get to the airplane. As we started talking.
You were both on the same airplane.
Yeah, we were both on the same airplane going to Eugene. And he was going to do the workshop. I was just going home. And so we're running down the tarmac. I'm going, hey, this is pretty cool. We get to the airplane and get our seats. And he came back and asked me, I was a seat next to me. He goes, can I sit with you? I said, yes. Yeah, you bet. And I thought, this is really pretty cool. And I had a magazine with me, American Art Review or something, I think. And we started talking about art and life and questions about family, and all the kids and what I did for a living. And I thought, man, this guy asks really, really good questions. He's really pretty sharp.
He's a deep thinker.
He is. He's always thinking. Sometimes it amazes me. I don't think his mind ever shuts off.
No.
So we flew back to Eugene and
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, we flew to Eugene, and I bumped into him at a little art event later that week, and we talked, and we bumped into each other a couple of times that week, and just did really enjoy the conversation. I called him a couple of weeks later because I had a question, and I got his number from a mutual friend, the person that was putting on the workshops, and asked him a question, and I thought, I don't get it. He goes, well, I just got to show you sometime. I got a workshop in July out here. It's full, but if you come on out, you can get in. So my wife and I decided to go visit Jackson Hole for the first time.
What a great story. I mean, you guys, you have a legendary friendship. You're very close friends. And how fortuitous is that, or happenstance, accidental magic, if you will, that you guys would meet in a situation like that?
I think it was a real gift from God.
Absolutely.
That it happened. And I don't know if he carries his French easel on an airplane anymore. You never can't tell what'll happen.
Well, I don't know if he uses a French easel or not. I have no idea.
He's gone. Go ahead.
No, that's a great story. So you're in a situation, you're learning to paint, you're a little bit more into the painting thing, you're still in police work. What's the next step? How did you get to where you are now?
I continued to do policing as hard as I could. I was a news supervisor. I was always wanted to try my hand at leadership. I was a canine sergeant, and I was a dog handler and running the canine unit. But I also now and I love my job, my canine job. It's the best job in the world. but I also really, really, really wanted to paint. And so it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, continued to try to paint, try to learn as much as I could. Went on lots of painting trips with Scott. We'd get an invitation, we'd head out to Santa Fe or Scottsdale a few times out now. So I'd take time off work to go paint, and it caused a little bit of friction at work, but I knew I wanted it so bad. And so we'd go paint, and Scott would help. Scott would critique, and it's a little intimidating to stand there when you don't know anything to paint next to the guy that you think is like the best, one of the best in the world. And so it took a lot of time off work and just continued to paint. I knew it was going to be hard, but I just decided I had quit once. I'm not going to quit again.
Yeah, well, that's the right attitude.
It's hard. It's really hard. It's kind of like everything else. It's really a lot of fun and really rewarding. It's just hard.
Well, but what's magical about it is it may be hard, but unlike some things that are hard, that are not fun, it can be hard and still be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, at least you're painting. You might be struggling, but you're painting.
That's true, and it adds to the lifestyle. That I got a chance to learn to fly fish, and so you paint, and I know there's a lot of plein air painters out there that fly fish and hike and boat and bike and stuff like that. Well, you stand there painting and think about fly fishing, stand there fly fishing, think about painting, and it becomes part of just a great lifestyle. And for me, getting away from the kind of work I did into that, being totally absorbed in painting, was a real blessing. I always felt like in the olden days when I first started, I thought, plein air painting is kind of like being in a foot pursuit or a car chase, a hot pursuit, and that everything depends on your prior planning, your training, your preparedness. Your success or failure depends on what you bring to the game. It starts in, you only got, it's going to be over an hour and a half, in the way I did it, a 1 session type deal. I've come to expand my understanding a lot from the early understanding of it. It's on now. And so it was a real intense pursuit and see what happens at the end.
Well, when will that be?
Oh, I meant like the end of at the end of painting.
The end of a painting session. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I thought you meant the end.
Well, yeah, I never know. Having had a heart attack last May, I think about the end all the time.
Oh, did you really?
I did. Yeah.
That's frightening.
Yeah. That was an interesting afternoon too.
Well, so this is a really good time to tell everybody to buy your paintings because they're going to go up in value at some point. Hopefully not too soon. Yeah,
that's been suggested a couple times.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, essentially, you kind of went from you went from a hobbyist working another job, then you essentially went, at some point you transitioned into selling your artwork, did you not?
I did, yeah.
And that was before you retired.
Yes, it was.
So tell people what you learned from that, because I get that question all the time. Should I just quit my job and start becoming a full-time artist? What's your best advice to them? What did you do?
I listened to Matt Smith and Kevin McPherson, who both told me, paint like mad, finish your career, and then start selling your work or become a full-time artist. And I listened to those guys, and that's what I did. I finished out. I painted as hard as I could. My first gallery was here in Eugene. Oddly enough, I was on a SWAT call out with my canine, and after we had done an attic search full of tear gas, and we found the guy. And I went home to get cleaned up before I took my paintings down to the gallery to show the gallery owner, and my back went out. I guess because I had carried my dog out of the attic, and so now my back is out. But I got to go to the gallery and show my paintings. So I loaded them up and got down there, and I didn't care if I got rejected because I just was not in very good shape.
Yeah, well, you probably weren't exactly in the mood.
I wanted to show her those paintings, and she said, "I love them. I want to have a show for you." And so it was a successful day all around. So from that, I started searching around for galleries and kind of keep my ears and eyes open. A gallery owner in Carmel saw one of my paintings on a painting trip and asked me if I wanted to show there, and I did, and started showing work in Carmel, and just kept plotting one foot after another. My next gallery, it was somebody saw my work in Sun Valley and asked me if I wanted to show in Jackson Hole, so I did. My advice is to pursue it hard with your whole heart, and good things start to happen for those that are prepared and put yourself in a position to be seen.
Well, you went through a process, and we all go through a process, and each of us goes through a different one. You now can look at that process and say, if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, or if I could advise someone who's listening to this and saying, I want to take up this plein air thing. I want to take it to the next level. Tell us what you would do today, knowing what you know now, if you were giving them your best advice.
My best advice would be to not put out anything but your best paintings.
What does that mean?
Make a plan. Well, I put out some paintings that I really wish I hadn't.
But didn't you at the time you put them out, didn't you think they were good?
I think so.
You think so?
The best I could do at the time. I think so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that we all go through this growth thing, and I've told before, I went into my gallery and I wanted to vomit over some of the paintings that were in there that were a few years old, and then there was somebody right there who said, "Oh, I love that. I want to buy it." It's like, well, it means something to somebody, but I mean, I would imagine you look back at something you painted a year ago and you're not as happy with it as you would be something you painted today.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. So,
but don't put, in other words, if you know it's not good, don't put it out.
Yeah, that's true. Don't put it out. If you know it's not good, you're not going to be able to fake it. Somebody will see through it. I think just work as hard as you can, and wait for some good things to happen. Get a plan. Some folks are better planners than I am, but and don't give up. Get some good teaching. There's so much information out there now. Get some good teaching. Get some good information, and don't give up. Work hard.
Yeah,
be positive.
I don't think people really understand how much different it is today than when you started it. I started painting plein air because my wife was pregnant with the triplets, and I had to go outside because she couldn't stand the smell of paint. And at the time, first off, this is kind of pre-Google and pre-internet, and it wasn't pre-internet, but it was really tough to find things, and there weren't this right now. There are hundreds of workshops, but there really weren't all those workshops. There weren't a lot of videos. There certainly were no conventions, and
right.
Now we have all these tools that are at our fingertips. You literally can sign on to something right now and be watching a video, full length, 20-hour video in 10 minutes from now, and none of that was available then. So, this is a different time. You have no excuse for not jumping in and crushing it.
There's definitely information out there. It's a great time to be an artist, and there's a lot of folks that are buying art still. And so I just think it's a great time. The young guns that are now able to make a living in this business really owe a debt of gratitude to a lot of pioneers that really hung on.
Yeah, that's really true.
All the time.
Really true. So
I hope we don't take them for granted.
No, well, I hope not too. Who are some of those pioneers?
Well, I think about Ginsberg. I think about LaFell. I think about my mind just went blank. The New York crew, Bert Silverman. The people that hung on.
Yeah, I had.
I know my.
Go ahead.
No, please. I'm glancing over my bookshelf to see it.
Oh yeah. Well, I had dinner with Dan Green and his wife Wendy Corporale about 8 months before he died, maybe even a little less than that. And he was telling me the horrible things that they went through by being representational artists, in the 50s and 60s, trying to make it when modern art was just the bomb, and anybody who was painting anything that looked like something was completely out of vogue and out of fashion, and they had such a hard time making a living. And he said something that really stuck with me, and that is that most of the artists who were doing what we did sold out and switched and became modern artists because it was about making a living. He said, for me, it was never about making a living. It was about doing what I was passionate about. And I just knew that if I was passionate about it, I'd figure out how to make a living.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned, I'm glad you did. I had a chance to, shortly after I got awakened again to art, he did a demo in Eugene. I got to sit and watch him demo, and it floored me. It was just great. As I look over my shoulder, I got a Richard Schmid book here. I don't want to go on talking about heroes without mentioning Mr. Schmid. And his contributions.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and most of these folks are, they truly care about other people. I mean, they really, Richard is a really great example of somebody who has really put everything, his life on the line to teach. I mean, he could have done a lot of other things, and he's just passionate about helping other people learn and grow as an artist, which I think is really fabulous. So what's next for you? So you retired from police work about 5 years ago?
No, I actually retired in 2004.
Oh, you did? Way back. Way back.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Way back.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but 2004, I had 26 years in.
Wow.
And I actually took a leave of absence. I was ready to transition. The art market was great. I took a leave of absence early. I had my time in, but I wasn't old enough for my pension. I started painting as hard as I could. My wife was a consultant, so she would be out of town all week. So I painted 12 and 14 hours a day, just like I had a real job, and every 5 days a week, and took the weekends off. And I did that for a number of years. We know what happened in 2008 with our economy.
Yeah.
But at that time, things were smoking. So I kind of hit the ground running, and had some great galleries, and so I retired. So what's next is to keep trying to make a good painting.
Well, that's the ultimate, isn't it? It's hard. Now, you said you're doing some figure work and things like that now.
Yeah, my son is an artist. He draws. He's a storyboard artist in Hollywood, and taking up painting. And so he and I went down to Watts Atelier to do a workshop with Jeff Watts in figure drawing. And I talked to Jeff on the phone. I said, man, I haven't done this since the 70s. He goes, come on down. You'll be fine. And I just had the greatest time.
There's another
I've never
good
seen
guy.
anybody with, oh, yeah. He almost killed me, though, I got to tell you. Because he walks in, he's the first guy there. He works all day. He's the last guy out the door, and his energy level, I tried to emulate that when I started teaching workshops. And the amount of energy he puts into giving his teaching was so inspiring. I'm being kidding about he almost killed me, because I tried to emulate it, and it was a hard act to follow.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well,
Great
some
school.
people just happen to have the energy. I don't know why some do and some don't.
Yeah, and just I love what he's done there, what he's developed and trained up his instructors. And my son and I have been back, I think, two or three times, and he's gone back.
Yeah.
To the school, and
well, that's a terrific thing to do. Well, this is always enlightening to learn about life as an artist. How did COVID impact you positively or negatively?
Well, negatively, in that not a lot of travel going on. I happen to be really fortunate to live in a place. We moved over here about a year and a half ago, where I can drive 2 minutes to be in the national forest.
Wow.
And so it hasn't changed that, except for watching your country and your world in turmoil, and the fact that I can't travel like a lot of folks. One of the best things about the whole PleinAir thing was going to really great places and hanging out with really great people and chasing that image.
Well, that'll be back. That'll come back.
Yeah. So I got to say, it hasn't been. I feel for my fellow countrymen and the artists that are kind of locked in a place where they don't have access to that. I've got waterfalls 2 minutes away, so I've been working. A lot of studio work. I'm still trying to get to know the area around here. It's a beautiful area out near Bend, Oregon.
And how large are you painting?
I worked, my largest last winter was like 36 by 60.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Yeah. And I sent it back to my gallery in Rhode Island, and it's now lives a wonderful home in New Hampshire. So I was pretty pleased about that.
Nice.
So painting big.
Well, that's something I think it's something that sounds like a lot of fun. I haven't had a chance to do much of that because it takes so much time. So you were talking earlier about something I just wanted to probe because I think it'd be helpful for people. If I can steal you for another minute.
You bet.
Yeah. So you mentioned that time when you took time off, you took a leave of absence and you worked, 40 hours a week on your painting instead of, just not approaching it like a full-time job. Anybody who does that for a particular period of time will see a dramatic curve, a dramatic change in their work. I've seen it happen time and time again with different artists. Did you find that was happening to you when you were working on your work that much time? Did you see a dramatic increase in your overall ability to paint?
I absolutely think that is true. So many things that as I was working through problems, hour after hour after hour, that would come back to me that I had heard teachers say, Scott Christensen or Kevin or Matt Smith took workshop, things that I'd heard, things that I'd packed away in my memory banks. It seemed like working that hard was like a pump where it would pump up information and ideas, but mostly information that would then become clear, things that I heard that I didn't understand. And then you start working on problem areas, and you start thinking about, are you painting in light or are you painting in shadow? Are you in the light family or the shadow family? Are your value structures holding together? Painting that much seemed like a real priming of the pump of things that had been filed away information and figuring things out, and then discovering that the harder it is, and the harder you work, all of a sudden you go, wow, I pulled that off. I wonder. And you think about how did I do that? How did I pull that off? And then, you started painting and it feels like you've never painted before. You're going, oh, what's going on here? And so you fight through that too.
Well, and usually when you get to those points, that's usually when you have your breakthroughs. You get to a point where you get frustrated. You feel like you just can't do it. You feel like you're making no progress, and you just work through it, and then you make breakthroughs then.
Absolutely. I did one thing that I think is helpful, and I am doing it again, is I had heard that the Russian masters had to work on their final piece for a year at the Russian institutes, I think the Repin Institute or something, and I thought, what if I just had a canvas and I knew this thing I'm not going to finish. I'm going to work on this thing for a year or more. And so I used this canvas, a big canvas, that pretty big at the time, it was 36, and I used it like warm-up sprints or getting ready for an athletic event. And I'd go into that because I knew I wanted to work on another painting, but instead of going in all stove up with anxiety and fear, is I grab this thing and I start working on this thing and kind of get into the rhythm and get my yayas out, kind of like, I used to be a swimmer as a kid, shaking out before you get up on the block to take off for the match. And I started working on this thing over time. And one year went into a number of years. And I learned so much by watching what I did before and what I now knew, because it'd get more complicated, more simple, more complicated. And I started seeing color harmonies happen, things happen. It made me really understand the advantage of not calling a painting done too quick. And so I use that. And so I try to keep a number of really big paintings going along that line, and use them and see it. Sometimes they don't work out, but a lot of times you pull off some really good stuff if you just keep going. That makes sense?
I think that's a great idea. I hadn't really thought of it that way. You're right. They had what they called a diploma project. They do that at the Repin Institute and the Serkov Institute, both in Russia, St. Petersburg and Moscow. And they're forced to work on this painting for their graduate year. One painting all year, nothing else. Yeah. And so, in some ways it puts a lot of pressure on, some ways it takes pressure off. They're also encouraged to do something that they're not likely to do in their lifetime. Meaning,
right.
When else in your lifetime are you going to have a full year that you can put into a painting? And there's another institute. I can't remember the two brothers. There's two famous brothers in Russia. They probably are deceased now, but they built out an academy, which was either a 3 or a 5 year program. If you were one of the top 2 or 3 people out of the academies in Russia, and they would award you I think it was a 5-year scholarship. And they said, we want you to come here for 3 years or 5 years and do monumental pieces with multi-figures. We will pay all of your expenses because you'll never be able to do this again in your lifetime. And by the way, you're kind of at the peak of your ability because you've been in these top schools. You've studied for 5-6 years. And so I got a chance to go and visit that place and see the work that these people were doing. It just blew me away. 10 and 15 foot paintings. So the idea of what you're talking about, I had some really great ideas. Just keep a giant painting on an easel somewhere and just noodle away at it every day, just a little tiny bit.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got a little interruption that shouldn't have happened. But yeah, I think I saw some photos of that venture that you talk about. That very inspiring. Oh, I can't imagine. Always admired the Russian Impressionists. I thought I might change my name to Costanza cough, and maybe I'd paint better.
Yeah. Costanza cough. That's good. I like that.
Costanza cough.
Yeah. Well, if you start painting like a Russian, I think you should. You have all of our permission to do that.
All right.
Well, do you have before we wrap up? Do you have any final thoughts or any particular pieces of advice that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I'm sorry. I think we've kind of covered
it. Well, that's good.
Yeah, kind of covered it. So
yeah. Well, this has been fun. It's been fascinating to hear the story, and I learned things about you today that I never knew, and it was really a lot of fun to hear the story. And soon, before you know it, we'll all be out there painting again and reconnecting in person, which will be a big celebration.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it will be. Looking forward to it. It'd be great to again be able to gather with a whole bunch of folks and paint and the convention and all that stuff that we all miss. So
I know I'm looking forward to it.
I used to tell my students, paint hard, life is short, and so I guess that's my bottom line.
That's a great ending, isn't it? Paint hard, life is short.
So thank you for the invitation to be part of your podcast. I very much appreciate it. I always enjoy this. This is just the truth. Every time we've ever sat in person, I've enjoyed the conversation immensely. So,
well, I feel the same. And you we got a little time because you came up to Fall Color Week in Canada, and we ended up being snow week, but that was fun.
that was a gas. It was. I figured out 23 degrees is really cold.
Yeah. Yeah. And
23 degrees.
Painting in the snow. We were all hearing all these stories, like take the mats out of your car and lay them down and put your feet on the mats so you're not standing in the snow. And all those little tricks. I snow painted a couple of weeks ago in New Hampshire. And
cool.
It was a random storm during Fall Color Week, and it was so much fun. Everybody else was kind of standing out under the eaves of, on porches and things. And I was standing right out there in the snow, and I was just having a ball. Although, the snow coming down on your canvas is just like spritzing it with water every 10 seconds.
Sure.
But it was fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you being on the PleinAir Podcast.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, thanks again to Gene. What a terrific guy. Really good painter, too. You guys ready for some art marketing ideas?
This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art. Proven techniques to turn your passion into profit.
In the Marketing Minute, I answer your art marketing questions. Just email yours to me, eric@artmarketing.com. Here's a question from Brett Mattingly in Pueblo, Colorado, who says, I keep hearing about the importance of networking through art clubs, co-ops, and the like, but how do I begin if there aren't any groups around me? Well, Brett, first off, let's ask why. Why is it important? Well, it kind of depends on what's important to you, but the idea behind it is that if you're not connected with other artists, you really won't have a feel for what's going on in the art community, because when you have a lot of people connected, you're now understanding what people are doing, what are they selling, what things are working for them. It's nice to have friends that are other artists. You might not have a group in your town, but you're in Pueblo, Colorado. I know there's a lot of artists around there. So really the goal is to be communicating with artists and hanging out with them on a regular basis. You can make that happen by creating your own little group on Facebook, or you can create a group where people get together in person. But why not just kind of start putting artists together, create your own little club? And, really the whole goal is just to be talking to other artists and networking to find out what's going on in their world. And if you can, that's a good thing. Somebody called me for some advice the other day. They just moved to California. and they wanted to know how to get really connected fast. And I said, well, join the California Art Club. There's no better way to get connected than there, because, all the great artists are part of it, and there's a lot of collectors, and there's a lot of events happening, and a lot of things that are going on. And so that is a really terrific way to get connected. And so are clubs. And sometimes those connections lead you to introductions into galleries or making other people aware of your work. That's the reason. Anyway, here's a question from Lauren Goforth in Rapid City, South Dakota. Lauren says, can you tell me what's the purpose of an artist statement and how can I use it to leverage sales? Well, this idea of an artist statement, I'm not sure where it came from, but I just, sometimes I wonder the purpose. I think the goal here is, a lot of galleries will tell an artist to make an artist statement. I think the goal is to have something to talk about. The goal is to maybe set an image or to try to create something for people that can kind of put a little bit of there for you. I mean, the idea that, what are you thinking about? Why do you paint? What do you care about? Why are you doing what you're doing? That kind of a thing. I don't really care about that stuff, quite frankly. I mean, I think it's nice to look for ways to get people to know you. I don't think it has to be an artist statement, but what you can do is you want to kind of create a sense of, maybe a little sense of fantasy. Why do people why do people like artists? Well, they live vicariously through artists because we live lives that are different than what other people do. So I think it's nice to have a line or two on your website, maybe at the top of your website. This is, Eric Rhoads is a traditional impressionist painter who does this or does that. And, he's really driven by landscapes and loves to also do portraits. I mean, that's kind of a thing. It's just really something to give people something to kind of hang their hat on and to understand a little bit about you, because people are confused about art. How do you do it? How do you use it to leverage sales? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody would be able to answer that question. I can't answer it. The reality is, to leverage sales, you have to have continual contact with people, lots of repetition. You need to get in front of them. They need to be seeing what you're doing. And what's more important about getting people to buy art is getting them involved with you. Let them get to know you. People are more comfortable buying from people that they know. Help find ways to let them get to know you. I suppose the artist statement could do that. But, get them to sign up for your newsletter, and then make your newsletter really informative, something they're willing to open, that's not just all about you, but it's about things that you're going to help them learn. And I think just the idea of, you got to be putting yourself in front of people on a regular basis, probably more than you're comfortable with. And that's what's going to help leverage sales, because you never know when somebody's in the market for something, looking for a birthday gift or a special gift. And so just staying in front of people all the time, that's what it's really all about. We have a product that we created. I don't think we're going to sell it much longer because we're kind of ready to invent the next thing, but it's called Art Marketing in a Box. The whole purpose is to kind of make you a star in your local market and make people familiar with you, and really just kind of stay in front of people. And it works really, really well. I've had artists say they've doubled their sales in the first year from it, just because they're staying in front of people. You don't need that. I mean, you just got to look for lots of creative ways to get in front of people. Anyway, that's the Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.
I want to remind you guys that PleinAir Salon, you want to enter before the end of the month. Just go to PleinAirSalon.com. Also, Watercolor Live. Save money if you get in and get there before the end of the month, and that's at watercolorlive.com. I think you save $200. And of course, the PleinAir Convention. You should do that. You're going to have a ball. Connect you with other people. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, we have a money-back guarantee in the event we have to cancel, depending on what's happening in the world of COVID by then. But go to PleinAirConvention.com. If you've not seen this blog that I do on Sunday mornings, it's called Sunday Coffee, and you can find out more about it and get a free subscription at coffeewitheric.com. Just thoughts on life, musings, etc. Well, this is always fun. We'll do it again sometime like next week, God willing. I'll see you then. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher and founder of PleinAir Magazine, and you can find us online at outdoorpainter.com. Remember, it's a big world out there. We'll see you soon. Meanwhile, go paint it. Bye-bye.
This has been the PleinAir Podcast with PleinAir Magazine's Eric Rhoads. You can help spread the word about plein air painting by sharing this podcast with your friends. And you can leave a review or subscribe on iTunes so it comes to you every week. And you can even reach Eric by email, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Be sure to pick up our free ebook, 240 plein air painting tips by some of America's top painters. It's free at pleinairtips.com. Tune in next week for more great interviews. Thanks for listening.